Hey Karen, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Kim?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us this morning. For
Yeah,
those of
thank
you
you.
that don't know who Karen is, this is Karen Dunn. She's an athlete and a strength coach, and she's here to talk to us a little bit about what she does and what she does with running and that type of thing. So, Karen, let us know a little bit about your running background and how you got started with everything.
All right. Well, without making it too lengthy, I've been running my whole life. It's actually kind of funny how it all started. So I'll give you a quick little story about it, which is when I was in seventh grade and we could start doing sports back at that time. Um, my best friend at the time said, "Hey, let's sign up for basketball." And we signed up for basketball, and I found out very quickly that my hand and eye coordination is not there. So I probably tried it for about 2 weeks, and then decided it wasn't for me. And she also then recommended, well, hey, let's try the track team. So I tried track, and I enjoyed it, and I was good at the 800, and um, so it just kind of went from there. So I ran in college on scholarship, and I did pretty well in college, but took a break after college for a good amount of time. Actually, I'd say maybe about 8 years. Um, and then I got back into it again, and from there I've been just really running strong. I did my first marathon probably 5 years ago, um, and I've run various marathons since then, and um, I just have naturally kind of progressed. I was running I ran a half marathon and decided, hey, I like this, and then the group I was running with, they all did marathons. So it was only a matter of time until they kind of sucked me in and got me to do one too. So my first was Steamtown, which is here in Pennsylvania, which is where I'm located outside of the Philadelphia area. And Steamtown is in Scranton. And it's funny, I'm going through my pictures, um, and I have all these pictures shoved under the bed in the guest bedroom, and I'm finally going through them, and I found one from Steamtown yesterday, and I was like, oh, look at this, my first marathon ever, and how things have changed and progressed so much since then. Um, they've changed a lot, and I'm sure we'll get into that too. But I started my first marathon was a 3:16, my debut, and I've just kind of naturally progressed over the years. And each marathon I ran, I don't think many people can say this, but pretty much each marathon I ran, I got faster with each one. Um, with well, I shouldn't say with each one. For each one that I was healthy, I got better. There were two that were a setback for me. One of them was Boston in 2018. I was just getting to the starting line after overcoming injury. And then another one was before that for really a small local race. Um, so it was a slower time for me, but I was still able to break the tape and win that marathon. Again, it was a small one, but so I've done really well, and I train with the Jack Daniels strategy. I'm a Jack Daniels VDOT coach, and I've always followed his strategies, and I coach my athletes on those strategies as well. And I see a lot of people improve their times, so I think there's something to be said about his approach as well. But again, just the background and history is I've been running my whole life. Through college, took that break, and then I'm coming back good and strong, and really getting into the longer races, half marathon and marathons, and progressing from there.
Sure. That seems like a lot of people do that. I did that myself. you go through college, and I don't know if it's wear and tear or burnout or something like that, and take like a good chunk of time off before you start crawling back into the sport. Now, you
Yeah.
mentioned you did the 800 in middle school. When you ran in college, did you do cross country, track, both?
All of it. Yeah, cross country, track, indoor track, all three in high school and college as well.
Yeah, that seems to be what a lot of people do. So very well could be burnout a little bit. Tell us a little bit, Karen, about what makes you get up in the morning. What motivates you to be an elite runner up in that pack of women that go get it at all these big races or the small races that you were talking about? What motivates you to get that forefront running in at the beginning of the day?
So I think a couple things. One is, you know, I'm just like all the other runners in that some days are definitely harder than others. And sometimes it's hard to get out the door, especially if it's a rainy day, the weather's not cooperating, or it's cold, it's dark, it's windy. And with recent events, I think what kind of makes it hard is no one else is out there. So, not only is it cold and cloudy, but now, it's very quiet and lonesome. But I think you have to find your different drivers. So, for me, there's a few things. One is on those difficult days, I know that all I have to do is just get my body out the door. And as soon as I get out there and start moving, once I get past mile one, it progresses from there. And we always feel better when the run is done. I always feel better when the run is done. I feel like my day can't start until I've either done my run or some type of workout. To be honest, I'm not a good decision maker for the day if I haven't gotten my run in. So I just feel like it really sets the tone for a good day. It's it's just it's a good way to start the day. Nice and healthy. You feel refreshed, invigorated. It's a great way to start the day. So one way to get out there and get it going is just do it. And you know, you'll get into the pace, you'll get into the run, and it'll come naturally. I think the second thing is internal motivation. So, I mean, this is a real thing, intrinsic motivation. Some of us have it, some of us don't. Some of us have more of it than others. And for me, I have a fire in my belly, and again, on some days that fire is bigger than other days. Um, but that fire is my drive to want to get out there, and I just I just love running. It's like my release. It's my stress release. I do like the quiet, and I've learned to really kind of absorb it better and be more comfortable with it more recently. It's nice. It's nice to get out there in the morning and hear the birds and the quiet of the day before you come home to a 6 and an 8-year-old and screaming all day. So maybe they make it better too. But yeah, so a couple things. I think it's that intrinsic motivation and just getting out the door, but also, I'd say the third driver for me is I always try and set a goal for myself. So, and I enjoy thinking about goals during my runs too. So I might go out on a run, and if I don't currently have anything I'm training towards or striving towards, I think about my goals, and I'm a thinker. I enjoy letting it come to me naturally, and just letting the goals come to me. And again, naturally. I don't really try and force anything. And I think if it comes naturally to you, um, it's easier to really work hard when you need to work towards those goals. So, and I know we'll talk about this later, but one thing is, when I was working towards qualifying for the Olympic trials, and that was a huge driver for my training, and it really got me when the workouts got tough. I thought to myself, you know, these last few seconds could be what it takes to qualify. Do I want it? And if I want it, then now's the time to push. So I the goals I think are a big driver too. But so sometimes when you don't have those goals, another example is kind of recently. So a lot of my athletes, their spring races, their goal race has been canceled, and they've been training so hard for so long for these spring races. And now that they're canceled, it's really deflating to a lot of them. And, I've had conferences with them, video conferences with them, or phone calls, and I see it in their data. When I see the data download from their Garmin and from their workouts, I can see it in their runs that, it's kind of when the race was canceled, it really kind of took the air out of their wings. And, it's really that we're not necessarily training for a race. A race is one day. I think what you really need to do is just enjoy the process as much as possible. When I get into some of those hard workouts, I know last weekend I had one, and it was super tough. And, mentally the demons were creeping in and saying, oh, why don't you just slow it down a little bit, but instead I'm like, no, you know what? This is what I enjoy. I enjoy physical fitness. I enjoy being fit. I'm still working towards a goal, even if my race, I was supposed to run Boston, even if my race is not in April and instead now it's in September, I'm still accumulating fitness. And I looked at it with a positive mindset, in that now I have more time to build that fitness and really go after that goal that I've set for myself for that race. Because again, running's accumulative. So even if spring races are canceled, keep running, keep training, keep putting in the effort and consistency. Those are the two biggest things I preach up and down every day to my athletes. Put in the effort, put in the time, and it will come.
Now, with that, Karen, I've been seeing a lot, more so on social media and then messaging from clients coming in. A lot of people aren't commuting to and from work. Therefore, that could give someone upwards of 2 hours extra a day to be out there on the road or weightlifting, doing whatever it is they like to do. I've started to see, after 4 weeks of this or more, depending on when people started working from home, that some injuries are creeping in. What would you say to those people where you said you're maintaining or increasing your fitness over time? What about these people that are working out, on the verge of too much almost for them? So some people might have jumped from going 30 miles a week, and someone just posted they were doing 70 miles in the past week, which is more, than they've ever done before, or more than they've done in the past 6 months, we'll say. What would you say to those people?
I would say hire a coach. No, that's a great question and a great point. People are running more, and you hear a lot recently about people just starting running who haven't run before, because it's a way to get out and get some fresh air in a healthy and safe way. For those who found that, hey, I've got more time to exercise, so now I'm going to increase my mileage. Yeah, so you don't want to double your mileage in 1 week. Rule of thumb is every 3 weeks, increase 1 mile for each day you run. So for example, if you're running 6 days a week, every 3 weeks, you can increase your mileage by 6 miles, right? So give or take a little bit, but that's kind of the rule of thumb that I use with my athletes too. You don't want to increase too fast. That is one of the biggest ways that people get injured. And if you're injured, you won't be able to get out there and run. So think about it that way. I know it's really hard for some people to hold back, but really in the long run, pun intended, in the long run, really it'll benefit us more because we'll be healthy, and the more you're healthy, the more training cycles you have to build upon and build that fitness. Going back to my point earlier of running's accumulative, so the longer you can stay healthy and build on that fitness, the better off you're going to be.
And with that point, usually I'll tell those people who are doing the excess running or working out is, you feel okay, you're doing it well right now, but in 6 to 8 weeks is when those injuries may start rearing their head from the jump or increase in workout that you did previous. So it doesn't always happen right when you're doing it. It's usually down the line when you can't remember that you made that big jump. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's tough, and I think sometimes as runners, I think sometimes we're a little bit stubborn. We don't want to listen to what's necessarily good for us, and instead we want to just do what we want to do. And but yeah, definitely, I think and as I mentioned, hire a coach. I kind of wasn't joking about that because a lot of people don't know how to increase their mileage. They don't know how to structure hard workouts. They don't know maybe what to do for a hard workout or how to build their fitness. How do I work on my endurance? How do I work on my speed? How do I work on my power? There's so many different aspects to running, and there's so many different ways to structure it, that I think having a coach is a helpful thing. I mean, I have a coach. I'm a coach, and I have a coach, and I feel like having a coach is like paying for CECs, continuing education credits, right? I use her to understand more about running from a different perspective that maybe I didn't have before. So obviously she's helping my training and helping me reach my goals, and I'm learning from her also. And that's another thing that I tell my athletes or people who might contact me for a consultation. I talk to them and they say, so what do I get with coaching with you? And a lot of times I tell them education, which is a huge part of it, right? You learn how to increase your mileage. You learn to have those down weeks. You learn to have different types of focus throughout various types of training cycles. But also, I like to help them learn and educate them on recovery. Sleep is huge and important. So is proper, nutritious meals and eating healthy, and what's going to fuel my performance, what's going to fuel my recovery too. Um, I just, and not only that, but also fueling for races. And I find that a lot of people are not fueling during their hard and longer workouts to prepare their gut or their body for that race that they're preparing for. So if you're training your body for this big race, well, why aren't you training it also to take in carbohydrates and fuel to increase that performance even more? So I think there's, a lot of components there that not everyone considers.
Exactly. And I think everyone out there who doesn't know if they want to coach or thinks they know what they should be doing for training plans, it's different for everyone, like you said. I know the PT aspect and the injury prevention aspect, but we all get hurt. I've had my fair share of injuries, and I even have a coach. Part of it on my end is I don't want to write up a plan. I want somebody else to hold me responsible for what I'm doing. So that's part of my intrinsic motivation to get out in the mornings. I don't want to let my coach down. One thing to let yourself down, it's a whole nother thing to let your coach down. So there are those motivating factors for people saying, well, should I get a coach or should I not? And on my end of things, a lot of patients come in and they start talking about increasing the mileage. Let's just pick 60 miles a week. That seems to be some magic number that a lot of people come in with. And then it's more of me trying to educate them on how a coach will discuss with you the importance of speed, and how speed can end up helping you in a marathon. Speed work during your training will help increase your our goal in the end of things. So I think having a coach does benefit a lot of people for many different reasons. And like you said, it just comes down to that education.
Yeah. And I've had people come to me to save them from themselves. And they will literally say that to me. I need you to save me from myself. And that is the person who is doing too much speed and maybe too many miles, or not sure how to, again, to structure that towards a specific goal. So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your journey to get to the Olympic trials and what it took of you to get to that point in your career.
All right. So it's a big question. So I was probably about 39 when I started my journey to the Olympic trials. Now I'm 43. Yes, I'm 43. I had to think about that. So it was not an easy path. It was not an easy path, and it was not a fast one either. So I ran the Wine Glass Marathon, and I ran it in a 2:52. And with that time, one of my friends said, nonchalantly on Facebook, oh, well, you know what time that's close to, right? And I'm like, no. I had no idea what she was talking about, but she was alluding to the fact that I was 8 minutes off of the Olympic marathon trial qualifying time. I was like, wow, 8 minutes. That's it. And then I started looking up, what kind of pace is that to run a 2:45, which was the B standard qualifier. And it's a 6:15 pace. I'm like, oh, wow. Well, I don't remember what my 2:52 pace was, probably about a 6:37 or a 6. It was probably about a 6:37 or close to it. But I was like, it took me a little bit, but I started kind of researching and learning more about the standard, what it took to qualify, and just kind of immersing myself in research about it. And so I went to the USATF website, where I saw a list of women who have already qualified and what their times were. And then I started thinking, okay, well, maybe I could do this. Like, this is it was almost like a childhood dream being reborn, because when I was younger in high school, I always said, I want to go to the Olympics. And that never came to fruition, obviously. But I didn't have enough focus, to be honest with you, back then. But, it's almost like this new dream of just making it to the Olympic trials. It was like that childhood dream being reborn. So I started getting a little bit more excited about it as I looked into it. And I reviewed the list of the women who've already qualified, and I was trying to see where they were doing it. And I saw, the big ones were Chicago, CIM, California International Marathon, Grandma's Marathon. And so, I made myself a list. And then I started to see, all right, well, how many are qualifying at each one. So what are my big hit, like my top 3 that I might want to sign up for if I'm going to go for this. And, Houston was on there too. That's a big qualifying course, but it can be hot, so I'd really kind of think about the time of the year that the race was, and, just kind of take that into account. But also I have a family, and to be honest with you, I haven't been on a plane or traveled since my honeymoon over 10 years ago. So for me to consider traveling for races when I'm just that local runner, I run all the little races around Pennsylvania. And I've done Boston, I think, before I decided to do this as well. Yeah, I did Boston. That was 2016. 16. Yeah. But this is the 18 shirt. So anyway, I was gathering all this information, and I decided, Chicago is known to be flat and fast. I'm going to make that one of them. And then, I heard really good things about grandmas and the weather and the time of year for that one. So, I signed up for that one. And of course, and it was kind of funny how I came across CIM. I came across CIM really just, on my own. I'm surprised I hadn't heard more of a buzz about that race. When I stumbled upon it, online, I'm like, wow, they even say on their website, Olympic trial qualifying course. And I'm like, well, if everyone's qualifying here, why isn't it better known? It seemed to be kind of small and not as well known as I would think it would be, because it has a lot of qualifiers. In fact, if you go on Atlanta Track Club's website, you'll see the courses that all the people have qualified on to get to the trials, and that one's number 1. But so I mapped out a course for myself, or I mapped out my itinerary. So first I'd do Chicago. And if I don't make it at Chicago, I'm going to have a backup, and I'm going to do CIM 8 weeks later or 6 weeks later, whatever it was. And then I'll take a little break. And then in the spring, I'll do grandma's. And I think that's all I had for the spring. And I don't recommend any more than 2 marathons a year at most for people. Hanson's rule of thumb is, 3 marathons every 2 years, something like that is their rule. And I like that because, you're not going through various training cycles, puts a lot of stress on the body. So, I would definitely not do 2 marathons in one season like I was. The reason I did that is, again, I'm turning 40 at this point, right? Turning 40, and I have a small qualifying window to do this in. And so I had 2 years, from January 2018 to like January 2020, or close to that, February, whatever. It was approximately a 2-year window. So within that 2-year window, I was trying to give myself as many opportunities as I could to qualify. And looking back, I was definitely, it's just so funny how your mind changes, your vision changes. I mean, coming into this dream of how I'm going to qualify, I was like lining up the races. Probably not a good idea. And, halfway through trying to qualify, I started reaching out to other coaches and just trying to gain more knowledge and try to see, is there something I could be doing that I'm not doing now? I just feel like tapping into other people's brains makes you smarter, and you gather more information, you have more to move forward with. And so I did. I talked to James McCurdy, who actually I went through the Jack Daniels VDOT coaching clinic at the same or with him. And so I'm like, let me see what he's saying, because a lot of his athletes are successful. Let's just see what he says. And we got to talking, and he asked me, he's like, when's the last time you didn't train for a marathon? And I'm like, well, I did some speed work back, last spring, and I had a great half marathon in the fall. And he's like, yeah, but when's the last time you didn't train for a marathon? And, him saying that the second time really made me think, like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying now. So I started working with Dot McMahon. I'm still working with her, or under her. She is my coach currently. And she's a McCurdy coach. And she coached me to a PR at Grandma's in the spring. So if you remember, I said I was going to run Grandma's marathon. She said, no, you're not running the marathon. You're going to run the half marathon, and you're going to run a good, fast, hard one. I'm like, yeah, but that takes one of my opportunities off the table. How could you do that? And it was the point of getting faster at the shorter races will translate into your marathon. And it did, long story short. So, it was scary. And I asked her more than once, are you sure I should pull out of the marathon? Because another part of the standard of qualifying is it goes on gun time, not chip time. So you need an elite start. You need to be on that starting line to give yourself the best chance of qualifying, at least for me, because I don't want it to come down to seconds that I didn't qualify. That would be painful. And I feel bad. I know that there are people that has happened to. That's another story. But so I pulled out of the pool and went to the half, and I was told by the person organizing it, the coordinator of the elite start, she said, once you pull out of an elite start of the marathon, you will not be able to get back in, just so you know. And it was scary to me. I'm like, there goes one opportunity. But I did. I pulled out, I ran the half, and I ran a 2 to 3 minute PR in the half, and felt really good about that. I still wasn't sure. I ran a 1:19:59. I was trying so hard to get under 1:20. I did it by 1 second. And, I still wasn't totally sold that a 1:20 half is going to get me a 2:45 full marathon. But I worked then all summer, pretty much doing two key workouts, marathon pace and threshold, over and over and over and over. And it was really hard for me. So a couple things that made it hard. One, I was not hitting my paces. I was not hitting paces. And I wasn't sure what to think about that. I know personally that I do better in the race than I do in training, even though I know I never give up in training, and I push myself full throttle. But I wasn't sure this time if that was going to be enough. And the second thing was, it's hot summer, right? And you're doing these grueling, long, grinding marathon workouts. And I have to say there were some dark times. You can read my blog post. It's on my website. It goes a lot more into details. But basically, if you have a really hard goal that you want to set for yourself, and you don't have the support behind you from friends or family, I think is even bigger sometimes. I guess both are just as big, really. But if you don't have the support to back up that goal, and people don't believe in you, that's deflating. That can take the wind out of your wings. That could be enough to make you want to give up. So I found myself on the trail doing threshold pace miles, and there were days I did that. I gave up. I stopped. I cried. And I said, what am I doing out here? am I wasting my time? Am I taking time away from being with my family, who I think about constantly when I'm out there? You know, I could be at home snuggled on the couch with my 6 and 8 year old watching cartoons and drinking some coffee, but no, I'm here, you know, putting time into fitness towards a dream. And so there were days I shut it down and I went home. And I'm like, you know, tried to think about it. But what brought me back to the surface, that brought me back to continuing to want to do this, was I had to just sit down for a minute and recalibrate. Like, think about this. This is your dream. This is your goal, Karen. And do you want it? And if you want it, then you need to work for it and go after it. And you're your own believer, okay? You can prove them wrong later. But if it's something I want to do, then I need to go out and do it, because otherwise I'll come back to this dream and look back on it when I'm 50 or 60 and say, yeah, that used to be a dream of mine, but I didn't do it because no one believed in me. Heck no, right? You need to get out there and believe in yourself. But what it really took again was sitting down and just bringing my thoughts together and understanding how important is this to me, and do I really want it? And I was so close, and I continue to get closer with each race. So I'm like, I have to keep going. I can't stop now. And it even took, I'll be honest with you, a conversation with my 8 year old to say, and he was one of my biggest supporters. You know, I sat down with him and said, you know, I'm out there every morning. I don't get to sit and relax with you guys and watch tunes in the morning. You know, are you okay with that? Do you miss mommy? Am I doing, you know, am I putting too much time and effort into this that you feel like it's taking away from you? And, you know, he told me, Mom, this is your childhood dream. Go after it. Go get it. So, you know, him and my daughter were, you know, some of my biggest supporters. Um, so, you know, you really just have to think about what you want, and if it's important to you, then, you know, try to find a way to make it happen. You know, if it's a time commitment thing, try to find a way to move it around to fit it in. And, you know, where it's kind of like United Way, where there's a will, there is a way. Like, you know, there is.
For sure.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said I totally agree. It's all about prioritization, and you 100% match that.
Yes. Yeah. So I pressed on, you know, and believe me, as I alluded to, I had dark moments, and the demons. I would even see crows or turkey vultures fly overhead, and I'm like, they're coming for me, you know. But I pressed on, and by that consistency and that effort and staying healthy, the end of the summer came, and, you know, my coach was honest with me. I said, you know, do you think I can do this? And she's like, to be honest, you need to start hitting those paces. And that lit a little fire under me. So, but it wasn't long after that I did started like touching pace, you know, finally getting there, or like 3 seconds off, you know, instead of 10 seconds off. So I'm like, oh, you know, I'm getting more fit, I'm getting faster. And I think that started to fuel the fire too. So I just, you know, stayed with it, and the positive mindset and the positive energy. I can't say enough about that. In fact, I recommend this book to anyone who struggles with positivity or mindset and thinking. It's called Elite Minds. Very good book. I've read it twice. And in fact, it I believe it is one of the reasons that helped me qualify, to be honest. It's not all physical. You're you're only physically capable of what you think you are, right? So that mind controls your body. So if you don't have that mental game, you need to get it and then see how that translates into your fitness. It unleashes power. Um, so I went to Chicago. This would actually be my second visit to Chicago because I did Chicago in 2018, followed by CIM in 2018. Then I did Grandma's Half, where I had that PR, and then a full summer of training and came back to Chicago. So this is really my third attempt, but really it was the first real attempt um, because I was ready. The other times I knew I wasn't ready, but this time I knew this is a real attempt today. And the weather was perfect. Um, it was what, 40 degrees, maybe a light breeze. It got a little more windy towards the end of the race, but it was really a beautiful day. Um, and the race itself was amazing. And, right from the start, um, my foot was on the starting line. So that day I knew it's not going to be by a second because I am on the starting line and I'm ready. Don't go out too fast. Just click it off. 6:15 all day. And that's what I did. And the more you can keep that pace nice and even, um, the less you're going to feel that, if that heart rate's going up and down and your pace is going up and down, it's wasted energy. You want to just hit that pace and just keep it as best you can. And that's what I did. And it was a phenomenal experience, I have to say, because within the race, there were groups. There were big groups, there were little groups, there were mid-sized groups, but every one of those groups was going for the Olympic trial qualifier. And they all just had a little bit of a different strategy. They weren't far away from each other. So there was one group that was so big, and it was starting to get a little windy. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I should join that group. They're only like 2 seconds ahead of me. Let me just do a quick pickup and get in with that group. And I joined them, and all of a sudden I was surrounded by them. And I didn't like that because I felt I could trip at any time. It was so tight. I couldn't get to the water stops. People were passing water across to me if I was lucky. And there were men in that group. It kind of upset me a little bit. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like form your own group. But I guess, maybe they had other women that they were trying to pace and help. And they were kind about it, but, it's just so many people. And I had to back out of that. And they were just a little too fast also. They were only 2 seconds faster than what I wanted to be at. But that 2 seconds, I knew, that could come back to bite me at mile 20. So, I felt like I needed to just edge off a smidge, and I did. And soon after I did that, I noticed another girl fall back from that pack, and she joined me, and we both agreed. We're like, yeah, that's just a little too much and a little too fast. And I had all the splits written down my arm. So whenever we would go through like a mile checkpoint, I would look at the clock and look at my arm. And Maura, I learned her name as well. She was running with me for really probably more than half the race. She would ask, are we good? Are we good? And I'm like, yep, we're good. Keep running. And then it came to mile 20. And I told Maura, I was like, the plan is at mile 20 that we just ease that gas pedal down and give what we have left. We don't slow down at this point. But if we have a little more to give, then it's the time to give it. And we agreed. and she went, and she finished, I guess, only a few seconds ahead of me, but she looked like she was farther than a few seconds ahead of me. But she is really, well, I had a line attached to her, and she didn't know it, but she pulled me to the finish that day. Um, so it was really amazing. It was the group effect. If you've ever read, here's another good book, How Bad Do You Want It? You'll read in there that the group effect is one way that really helps us perform better. And I think that helped that day. So
it's that little bit of internal competition, and some people like to run as a group in training and some don't. Same thing with races. Either way, when you do put yourself into that environment, I think most people do finally get to see it where it's like that fishing line. You kind of get slowly pulled in a little closer, every mile, and it does help you get pushed to that finish line.
yeah,
That's
it's
what
the focus.
I had heard that day.
Yeah.
Cool. So, with a little bit of your coaching, Karen, do you coach only runners? What type of athletes do you take in under your wing?
So that is, I think, one thing that kind of separates me a little bit or makes me different from other coaches is that um, I have my Roadrunners Club of America certification for distance coaching, but also my VDOT certification. And I feel like the VDOT certification is my specialty. I feel like that is the one that allows me to bring a little bit more to the table with proven researched theories, that have taken decades of work. Um, but also, you ask if I work with just runners or what kind of athletes I work with. I've worked with Spartan racers. I have, a couple of Spartan racers now. Um, I've worked with youth as well who are just trying to make the cut for the soccer team. So they had to run 2 miles within a certain time in order to make the cut for the soccer team at a local high school. So I've worked with youth in that capacity. I've also trained kids over the summer and kept them prepped for cross country in the fall. I've worked with older athletes, and all of those are runners, but the other thing I bring to the table is I have a personal training certification through the American Council on Exercise. So as a personal trainer, I feel like I'm able to, with the runners, I can give them strength exercises that are going to help I always like my runners to feel strong. It's sometimes it's about opening up that stride by giving them strength exercises to give them a longer stride length because their cadence is already very high. So I want to get a little bit more push off with each stride. And sometimes it's to help mitigate injury. And then also I do just personal training sessions. So I work at a local YMCA to do the personal training sessions. Now with recent events, I've been doing some personal training as well online through meetings like this. So not just runners, but I really miss and enjoy working with the personal training clients as well. So it's always better hands-on, but I think even by doing it through the computer, there's a lot of value there for them, because I think when they come through me for personal training, they're not maybe well versed in how to perform strength exercises or what types of exercises to do, or even just where to start. What do I do for aerobic fitness? A lot of, and those clients range in age anywhere from, I'm training a girl who is a horseback rider. So we're working on her strength to keep her on the horse. There are certain muscles that she uses to really grip the horse so she can perform the exercises needed in shows. So, and then I have the older clientele also that just want to be able to do those activities of daily living, get off the couch, sit down, um, squat, pick something up off the floor. So it's a wide range of clients, both in running and personal training. There's no one particular client, and they range in age from, younger to older. So
That's fabulous. Mixes your day up a little bit.
what's that?
That it mixes your day up a little bit.
Yes, keeps me on my toes.
Now, Karen, with all the COVID stuff going on right now and people are home and, like we talked about, they're doing a variety of different things. I see, or I feel most people are on social media a little bit more. And with that, there's a lot of these different challenges going on. So I'm not sure if you've seen like the plank challenge or the push-up challenge. Should people be participating in these types of things? What are your thoughts on that?
Do I encourage it? Is that?
Do you think someone who hasn't worked out before and they're like, I'm going to start this, I can do 20 push-ups or I can hold a plank for a minute. What do you think about people trying to participate in these challenges that may not know exactly what they're doing? They're just following along because it's more fun and it's getting them involved.
Well, I don't want to hold anyone back from getting involved, especially when it's towards improving fitness. So, I think most of them are harmful. Plank challenge or push-up challenge. I think most of them are harmful. If you have anything that you've been predisposed to with, like, maybe a shoulder injury or something like that, push-ups might be difficult for you to do, and you might want to do kind of a revised approach depending on your history. And with plank, I think core strength translates across the board in terms of running and just activities of daily living. Having good core strength, I think, also translates to good balance, which is good for our older generation. So, it helps with really supporting, I think, the back, which is, our lifeline. So I think various challenges are good. And even the virtual races, I think that those are great too. So, at first I kind of questioned the virtual race type of thing, because is it encouraging people to get outside and, when we're told to stay at home during these times, is that something we want to encourage, to get out? But I think as long as they have a safe place where they can properly social distance and get outside, working towards fitness is a good thing. It really is a good thing. So I think the races are great, even for the kids. So, I did create a virtual running series for Strengthen Your Stride, which is the name of my business. And really, I started it because, again, going back to the fact that my athletes were working so hard and training towards goal races in the spring, and they're canceled. One of them specifically came to me and was not feeling motivated. Coach, I'm not motivated. And I kind of said, well, what do you think about the virtual races? And it kind of went from there. And next thing you know, I'm sponsoring this big virtual race, and she's happy and she's going to run it, and she's looking forward to it. But I think it's great, not just for the competitive athlete who needs that little extra push right now, but even for the kids. My kids are going to do the 1 mile run. So, that's a little push for them because I can't always get them out the door. So,
Yeah, turns it into a little bit more of a family event, I think.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that I agree with you. The virtual races are awesome. I'm looking into some. I'm having more of that motivational issue getting out the door since I don't have anything planned now, but working on it. But for those other virtual challenges, I have to agree with you where we spoke about that in the beginning, where, if some people just starting out are trying to do, let's say, the push up challenge, and they have had an issue in their shoulder previously, even 10 years ago, from doing yard work, getting into a position that can be very vigorous, and you're not doing quite the proper form because you don't have somebody sitting right there to monitor, can actually cause further injury and harm. So I just want to caution people on, trying to be involved in that type of thing. If it's just like jumping back into running if you haven't run before, jumping into push-ups if you haven't done them in months is not probably the best thing for people either. So getting a coach like yourself or doing virtual personal training can help that person with cueing and technique and things like that versus jumping into something and getting hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
So just being smart about it.
What was that, Karen?
Just being smart about it.
For sure. For sure. Now, with injury, Karen, what do you do to prevent injury? Is it more the strength training? Do you do any other cross training type of things? Foam rolling, stretching? What do you do to prevent it?
Myself?
Yes.
So for myself, I feel like a lot of things lead to that, to preventing injury. So it's not just a one hit answer. I think, for me, in terms of what I'm running, it's fairly consistent. My body's adjusted to it. So there's nothing I'm necessarily doing in terms of like, reducing mileage or not doing certain speed workouts. I listen to my body there. I mean, I guess when I am out there and doing a workout, if I feel sharp pain, that might be an indicator that I need to stop. Or, um, I don't ever really force my body and try and overreach for things when I'm out there training. So I think if I had to do that, that might invite injury in the door. One thing I've learned, as you know, is running the roads quite a bit can cause some injuries with, the hips and the knees. So, just trying to find more of a level surface to run on has been one thing I've definitely incorporated. I try and stay on level ground where I can, and not jumping up and down off curbs, right? I heard that from you as well. So now I've been taking the ramps down.
Yeah.
But the other more critical things, when I'm not running, I'm foam rolling before I run to get that neuromuscular stimulation. And then I'm also doing some mobility exercises, before I head out the door. And I'm doing some light stretching. Usually stretching is done after you're warmed up and after the run, but sometimes I'll do a little bit of light stretching before I go, but it's mostly mobility exercises and dynamic, or in other words, when I say dynamic, it's movement exercises I'm doing before I head out for the run. So some examples might be, in mobility, I think, viewers today can probably look at the videos that you've posted on what you do before your run. Some of those leg exercises to open up the hips and the lumbar and thoracic spine, those are good ones. And then I'll progress from there to dynamic exercises. So leg swings, walking lunges, maybe a couple butt kicks and high knees, but more lighter. I like it on the lighter end for dynamic exercises. And even a couple strides, a couple light strides, and then head out for your run. Um, After the run, I'll do a similar sequence. So I'll foam roll again. I always start with foam rolling. And then, since it's after the run, I'll check my mobility more so than try to get mobile. I just kind of check it. And then I'll move into my stretches. And at that point, I'll get a little deeper in the stretches, hold them a little bit longer. And it really feels good to do that after a run. And I feel better. I feel like that helps my recovery as well for the next day's workout. But then also sleep and food. Food helps us with recovery. I've been reading a lot about protein, the type of protein and the timing of it and the amount of it. We're as women, we should be or even older women, so over 40. I've been told 30 grams per meal almost, which is hard to get to. Even if you're eating eggs and a turkey sausage, it's hard to get 30 grams of protein. So trying to figure out diet for recovery, but and yogurt is a good one. It's got those good probiotics in there to help with gut health, which also recently I've read some research on that, the health of your gut and the bacteria in it can also be a way to help lower inflammation and, in essence, then help with recovery. So food's a big one too.
Yeah,
beets.
sure.
I love my beets.
Oh, yes. And a lot of people do forget that injury can happen from any one of those things that you mentioned. It's not just my favorite, which is stretching, and all my patients know that. But it is nutrition and sleep and stress and everything that goes along with your daily routine. So I'm glad that you hit pretty much upon all of those. Um, at one PT, we've offered telehealth essentially from the day we started. So with, again, the COVID crisis, PT has completely shifted its whole career change over to telehealth while people are shut down. It's completely new to a lot of clinics, but not so much for us. Can you tell some of the viewers what your thoughts are on PT with telehealth and what you went into that thinking, like if you had any negative thoughts about it and maybe how that changed afterwards?
Yeah. So I'll share my story. So when I finally made it and got my qualifying time for the Olympic trials, I was hitting the roads hard and going after those hills, and I had new motivation, right? I just had qualified, and now it's time to dig deeper and get faster still, right? So I'm out there training, and I was training for about 8 weeks into it. Things were going really well, felt great. But then all of a sudden, something started nagging me below the knee on the inside of the tibia there. And I thought it was something I could just shake off. It felt just like another niggle. When you're training hard, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between a niggle and really what's going to turn into potential injury. But as soon as I knew this isn't just a niggle, immediately, you get on that and you get to someone who's knowledgeable to help with it, and you can usually get through it pretty quickly. The hard part, I do have to say, is finding someone who's knowledgeable. All right, there are a lot of physical therapists out there, a lot of doctors, and one question I get a lot is, well, who should I go to? You know, even people who have been running for years, I still don't feel like everyone has a good network of professionals to help them when they get into a hard spot, you know, and have an injury or a niggle. For me, I was playing around on McCurdy's website, and I found a link to you, One PT, and I was like, huh, telehealth. Well, let me just see. And I had never done it before, and I didn't even really know who you were. But I was like, okay, well, if she's on McCurdy's site, you know, she's got to be legitimate. So, um, what I was most impressed with, well, were a couple things. One was your quick response. So, pretty much same day response. It even said on your voicemail, I think, if you want a quicker response, then text. And otherwise, you know, you'll may wait till tomorrow for a response from your voicemail. So I'm like, well, I want a quick response. So I texted and I got a quick response, at least, you know, that evening. I got a phone call from you. And in just that one phone call, immediately I knew this woman knows what she's talking about, you know, and I like what you had to say, and you were very positive about it too, and that, you know, we're going to get you through this, Karen. And we're going to get you back out there running. And I'm like, oh, wow. And she cares too, you know, like I finally made my dream happen. Now I'm like, actually, I was 8 weeks away from the Olympic trials race when I contacted you. And I'm like, I'm 8 weeks away. And, you know, I was pretty upset because at that point I couldn't even run. I could not even run. It was so painful, my injury. But we met. So you called me that night. The next morning we met via telehealth, and you know, you mentioned you're going to do an movement assessment screen. I'm like, how's she going to do that through the computer? But you did, and to my surprise, you know, here I am laying on the floor in my kitchen doing these things you're telling me to do. I wasn't sure that you could really see what was going on, but you did, because where I felt stuck, you were like, ooh, you're stuck there. And I'm like, yeah, she can see it. She knows. All right, so this is good stuff. And so I felt confident after that session that the exercises you were giving me, because you also provided exercises right off the bat, right? You kind of knew what was happening before we even connected via telehealth based on our phone call the previous day. So you gave me exercises, and immediately I started doing them. You showed me how to do them, how many reps, how often, you know, when I should start to feel improvements, and all of it was on point. And, you know, within, I would say 2 weeks, which is the normal time frame, I think, for the body to really start latching on to the work that you're doing, I started to feel improvements. You know, I wasn't 100% yet, but I started feeling like, okay, we're going in the right direction. And I just kept it up. And, you know, to the point where I'm still doing those exercises now. And I tell my clients the same thing, or my athletes. You know, whenever we're given exercises for something through physical therapy, or, you know, even a personal trainer who's trying to work with you on something that might be an opportunity or a weakness for you, that's an exercise that you probably want to call one of your critical exercises that you do going forward. And that's what I do. I pulled out the ones that really feel good and make a difference for me, from the ones that you gave me, and I do those daily, sometimes twice daily. You know, not that I have to do a full set, but maybe 5 reps, or if I feel I need a little bit more, then I'll do 8 to 10 reps, you know. But I'm not doing it like I was when I was trying to get healthy. So my experience with One PT was incredible from start to finish. And another thing I liked is that you checked in with me basically every day, at least for those first 2 weeks. and then it, got a little more sporadic, which is fine because I was on the road to recovery at that point. I knew what I was doing. But you still continued to check in with me, even up to race day. And so lo and behold, you got me to the starting line at the Olympic trials. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and it does, like you said, come down to responsibility where I give you the tools in your toolbox and you utilize those tools daily to help yourself get to that line. So it's a matter of, you educate your clients and I educate my patients. As long as you follow that routine, people generally heal pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
telehealth has its, ups and downs. Like you said, your clients you feel in person is great, but you're capable of doing it via computer. Same with me. Some people really just have to have that hands on. But a lot of times, I would have considered you a person that needed hands on to get you there faster. However, we're capable of doing it via telehealth as long as you're willing to participate, follow through with everything. It generally works out perfectly fine. So I think people are a little reserved about what working through the computer can be with a medical professional, but it actually isn't as scary as I think some people presume it to be.
Yeah.
So, Karen, if people want to reach you in terms of coaching or personal training or any of that, how might somebody do that? How might someone go ahead to contact you?
So I would start with my website or email, but you could go to my website. It is strengthenyourstride.coach, and it's not strength in, it's like strengthen, like get stronger. I always have to explain that, but en, not in. Strengthenyourstride.coach. That's my website. There's a button on there that says book a consult. You can click there to schedule a consultation with me. There's no charge for that. I love talking to people and just finding out, where you're at, what your thoughts are, and talking, any kind of fitness. So that's one way. Or the other is, if you want to email me directly, you're welcome to do that as well. That's kdunn@strengthenyourstride.coach. And then the other way is, there's a phone number also on my website. So there's various ways, email, phone. But I would recommend, if you're interested in strength training and running, to follow my Facebook page. So we've been really kind of amping that up recently. I've got some good recipes for recovery, good recipes for fueling your workouts. I plan to get some more videos out there soon of different strength exercises that are good for anyone. And then also, some recovery techniques with mobility and foam rolling. So there'll be a lot of good things out there. So if you want to follow the Facebook page and my website, I'm also on Instagram. And I think that's about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'm going to post all that stuff to the podcast or the webcast here as we post it online for people. That way everyone, all our viewers here can go to that and click on it as well.
All right.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
Really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to add in here, Karen?
I don't think so. Just, everybody get out there, even if it's just for a walk, just get that heart rate up. And, it's amazing what it does for the body and the mind. So.
Sounds good. All right, Karen. Well, you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thanks again.
All right. Thanks, Kim. Take care.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.